Welcome back. As indicated before we went on the break, we will be getting now into our first discussion for this morning. Today we have one of our local epidemiologists here as guest with us. It's a pleasure for me to invite Mr. Gerard St Cyr. Good morning, Mr. St Cyr, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Oslin, and thank you for having me on your program. And good morning to all your viewers and listeners of your morning program.
Yes, it is a pleasure to be speaking to you today. Mr. St Cyr is an instructor of epidemiology at the St. George's University and holds a postgraduate certificate in epidemiology. He has a master's in public health and is a board certified in public health and a Bachelor of Science in biology. So we're speaking to one of our local experts here on this COVID virus, vaccination. And an important element, personal responsibility. Mr. St Cyr, I know I have been following your comments as you continue to encourage people understanding the dynamics about this because it is your field. Let us start off with that virus that we are now dealing with in the worst part of this pandemic for us as a nation. It is concerning. We have lost 14 lives so far. 14 too much. We have still the challenge of the misinformation, the conspiracy theories and everything else that going with this virus. So let's start there and then we'll move into vaccination and the importance of it.
Yes, Oslin, I would start with the fact that there are many theories out there that seem to be discrediting or the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah.
And Grenada is currently facing its first wave, and over the next few weeks, we will continue to experience that. We've seen possibly just about 150 cases plus or minus 10 on a daily basis. So it averages about that, and it's going to continue to. We're going to continue to experience that. One of the main reasons is that we do not have the personnel to do effective contact tracing as much as possible. The mechanism that we had in place to collect information at the business houses for patrons have not been done properly. We have no way of verifying the accuracy of the information that was placed on the records, even the telephone numbers to find people. So we have some real issues and limitations, and so that has in some way has had the Ministry of Health some steps behind the spread of the disease. And it happens, especially in resource-challenged countries. We've seen even in the developed countries, they struggle to keep up with the rate at which infections were occurring, especially during their first wave. We have a personal responsibility as citizens of Grenada to ensure that we adhere strictly to the protocol. When I say strictly, I mean not just putting on a mask and having it under your chin or under your nostrils, but it should be covering both your mouth and your nostrils so that it prevents any infectious droplets from traveling through the air and infecting a susceptible individual. It also prevents you from ingesting any infected droplets from another individual as well. Things like not touching your eyes and face during the day, sanitizing your hands regularly. Doorknobs and door handles are the ideal place for this sort of infection that can occur because we touch our faces a lot. And if we have broken skin and, the virus could get in there, because the skin is a barrier, but if it's broken or we have some ports of entry like our nostrils and our mouth, and our eyes where it can get in. So these are some, important little things that we can do. And it doesn't really cost us anything to do it. Some people complain that they cannot breathe through the mask, but it just takes some practice. Yeah, when you're by yourself, you can just slip it down. Once you get into the company of someone, you put it back up. When I drive my car, I have it down. When I get out my car, I put it up. So it's just trying to negotiate your way so that we control, because the thing is, if the virus does not get to a susceptible individual, it dies. So we must stop the spread. And we could try all our best. We could continue to encourage vaccinations. We could do a lot of things. But if we do not adhere to the behaviors that would stop the spread, then the virus dies. And so we would have to wait until another strain or another set comes in. but we can stop it even without getting vaccinated. So individuals need to pay more attention to details as it relates to adhering to the protocols. We are still laxed on that and not showing that sort of responsibility and that level of urgency when it comes to stopping the spread of the virus from.
I want to go back to a comment that you made just in the starting of your exchange there, and that of this being our first wave. And I'm happy that you spoke to this. Last year when the pandemic started, government took immediate action, knowing fully well what was happening, or rather recognizing what was happening on the world circuit. The decisions were taken so that we start restricting people's movement, so that we can contain this virus. We had, just about under 100 cases up until a couple months ago, right? So we were in a safe bubble for quite a while, giving us an opportunity now to, because we heard the cases, we don't have any cases here, but the importance of us maintaining the adhering to the protocols and doing what we needed to do fell solely on us as an individual, each individual having that responsibility. And we now are at the stage where things are it is where we were hoping it would not go. Where our health system will be overwhelmed. We have heard it from the Ministry of Health officials that our system now, it is overwhelmed. We are clocking in, as you rightfully said, over 100 cases per day. Just a margin 150 per day. You spoke a while ago on the composition of the virus, and I heard Dr. Sean Charles spoke to this, and I want us to expound on this morning. Let us speak about the composition of a virus. You spoke about if the virus doesn't have an opportunity to get to a host, it eventually dies. And the importance of the protocols, and I think it is important that our people understand why these protocols were placed there. It is not there to make us uncomfortable, but it is there to keep us safe. Viruses would only continue to thrive or continue to grow and duplicate if they have a good host. But if we wear our masks, we sanitize, so we might miss it. One may get to you on your hands, but if we sanitize and we continue to be extra cautious, then we have a better chance at fighting this.
Yes, Oslin, and you're correct with that. So in epidemiology, we have what we call the epi-triad, where it's a triangle, and each at the apex we would have one would be the host. So in this instance, we are the host, humans. Then we have the disease-causing agent, or what we call the pathogen. So that would be the cold SARS-2 virus, and we have the environment, which is at the third point of the triangle. Public health and medicine, whenever we have a situation where there is an outbreak or the potential for an outbreak, we attempt to intervene between any one of those 3 points so that the virus doesn't get transmitted from one person, an infectious person, to a susceptible individual. The wearing of masks is a direct barrier that we put there between an infectious individual or any individual who can potentially infect others, or if you're not wearing your mask, you can potentially get infected. So that barrier prevents the virus from going from one person to another. Sanitizing surfaces and hands, etc. It's an attempt to reduce the risk of infection from the environment. So the virus has a very short life outside of the human body, but it can survive in some specific conditions. So we sanitize to kill the viruses if it's existing on door handles, surfaces that we are using regularly, our hands, etc. So the vaccination initially we thought was going to provide solid immunity, but that has since gone out the window because of the mutation that has occurred. And we're now saying that, which the evidence is showing that vaccinations are helping or to reduce the risk of extreme experience from the disease or even mortality or death. So all these strategies are geared towards, slowing down the virus and eventually getting that infectious nature of it to be slow as possible, where we can catch up with contact tracing, etc. We can help the ministry. They're overwhelmed and they're are really struggling to catch up with the rate at which things are happening. But as individuals, we can really help them to slow down the rate at which infections are occurring, which would make their work a lot easier and more effective. Because every time we miss an infected person through contact tracing, then that's potential for 6 other individuals to get infected, because it has been proven on average with the Delta variant, an infected person that becomes infectious can infect 6 other persons. So if I get infected and infectious and I infect 6 other persons, then that 6 other persons can now infect 6 other persons. So that's 36.
Yeah.
And that 36 persons can now infect 36 times 6 persons. So you see how exponentially this can increase.
It is
and that's why we have to stress on the importance of the individual responsibility that we have. It's not just the government, it's not just the Ministry of Health, it's not just vaccination, but we have that responsibility. And I would say the larger portion of it lies on the population. The government can do so much, but we can do so much more as a population.
Yeah, I am fully supporting that last part. The government can do so much, but we can do so much more. We can do so much more, taking personal responsibility to ensure that we are considerate for others, not just ourselves. Because one of the things that we notice is that some of our elderly, the 97-year-old that died, I'm sure she may not have been mobile, but she had the virus and she passed. That is a family that's in mourning. That's a family member that we have lost. And it is heart-wrenching. Let us move on to the conversation of vaccination. We still have a very high percentage of hesitancy, vaccine hesitancy. We hear it all the time. Well, since last year, we were hoping that we were going to get a light at the end of the tunnel. The light is here, but we are still not taking the vaccine. We are still speaking about all the things that can go wrong. We hear of all the myths, every bad story that has come about. We are hearing it. But there are the positives of vaccination. Billions are vaccinated and are still alive. So give ourselves a chance. Let us speak to vaccination. I think it is important because it is one of our best choice and shot at this time.
Yes, Osling, and I agree with you, but I would want to just back up a bit because what we are experiencing in Grenada or the Caribbean or in other countries with vaccine hesitancy is not something new to public health and medicine. So we should have been prepared for that, and we should have easily find out what is contributing to the vaccine hesitancy. Now, it has been proven that vaccine hesitancy really is the the response to individuals not trusting or having real questions or doubts about what they are putting in their bodies. And we can, as public health professionals, can address that. A lot of individuals has been misinformed. There has been in the past many instances, vaccines that we accept, the MMR, mumps, measles, and rubella, that kids get here. There are countries where there's hesitancy towards that has been growing over the last 30 years, where it was thought that there was some cognitive defects that it caused, and which was false, right? So we've had some experiences in the past, over the last 50 years, where there has been an increasing anti-vax campaign globally. In fact, WHO has listed vaccine hesitancy as one of the top 10 threats to global health, and that is before the pandemic. So what we are experiencing here with the hesitancy is not just individuals being anti-science, but it's because there are real questions and doubts, and it is the individuals in authority responsibility to ensure that they remove those barriers. Because if we are pushing, because we know the evidence shows that there is some benefit when you're fully vaccinated, despite the minimal risk that there may exist. And so if we can remove those barriers, because vaccine hesitancy is different from anti-vaxxer. There are anti-vaxxers who are totally against vaccines. The vaccine hesitancy, these are individuals that we can convince them with the correct information to take the vaccine. Some may not take it, some will take it, and some will totally become anti-vaxxers, but that's something that we have to live with. But what I'm saying is that our approach, just saying that there is benefit to the vaccine, would not increase the uptake of vaccines, because there are real barriers, there are real issues, there are real concerns that people have. And if we do not share the information in an unbiased way, then we ought, then we would not get them to change their minds. For example, the New York Times yesterday released, something that says that we were, in terms of cases per 100,000,
yes,
we were top in globally, and that didn't make no sense, because we are experiencing our first wave, and other countries are on the second, third, or fourth wave. So you cannot compare first wave experience to a second, third, or fourth wave experience. Because if New York Times should have taken Grenada's first wave and compare it to other countries' first wave and list it. But to do that, it is not a comparable experience. So because we expect the first wave experience to have a high number of cases per unit population, because there is a maximum number of individuals who are susceptible. The virus has not been in our population before. Grenada government has done an excellent job up to a few months ago to keep it out. But the truth is, and that's the hard truth, it was going to get in eventually. There's no way we could have stopped it, and we would have experienced the same experience, because it is proven that for every 1,000 cases, we'd have an average of 15 deaths. Now we are at 14 and we are above 1,000. So the science is showing that what other countries have experienced, we are experiencing it. So we expect for every 1,000 cases, we expect on average to see 10 to 15 deaths from that.
I think hearing that one, continuing to hear the numbers, and of course how the science and the correlation, comparing the information from the other countries, it is hitting home, and it's concerning. It is very, very concerning for everyone on island. As we conclude this morning, Mr. St Cyr, I want you to reiterate the importance of personal responsibility in this whole process. I know you have spoken to it. You spoke to it throughout your contribution this morning, and I wanted to again remind us of the importance of personal responsibility in this public health crisis in which we are in now.
Yes, Austin, and we cannot overemphasize this, because I would want to speak to the fact that we already know that the Delta variant is the strain that is within our population, and this variant is very infectious. It's twice as infectious as the initial variant. So that makes it very dangerous. And we have to be mindful of that. We should not be waiting to see people die to feel that sense of responsibility that we have towards preventing or slowing down the spread of the Delta variant within our population. This is something that goes beyond politics. This is about human survival. This is about coming together as a population. This is about fighting a pathogen that could potentially have a significant impact on all our lives if it has not already. And so once we understand that this comes home even before someone dies that we know, then we would make a concerted effort to adhere to the protocols. Within our country, we have very high rates of cancers. We have at least a 33% rates of diabetes. We have many underlying issues: cardiovascular disease, strokes, heart attacks, and these are very common experiences that we have in our population, which is another conversation. But the fact is, those, even down to asthma, those underlying conditions increases your risk of mortality or having an extreme or death-threatening or even a permanent decrease in quality of life after you have recovered if you got infected with the COVID-19 virus. And so these are real things. We have a lot of underlying conditions in Grenada that we seem not to be conscious of. And if we continue to allow this virus to spread, it's sad to say we would see a lot more extreme cases, and it would overwhelm our health system, and we would not be able to pay attention. And God forbid that we get to the point where we have to choose between which individuals we think will survive as against trying to save everyone. If it gets to that point, then obviously individuals would be treated, but the emphasis would be on those that can be saved. So it's God forbid that we get to that point. And if we understand that we could get there, and we have an individual responsibility to ensure that we don't get there, then we would adhere to the protocols.
Thank you so much, Mr. St Cyr. This morning we spoke to epidemiologist Mr. Gerard St Cyr, lecturer at St George's University. Mr. St Cyr, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for the information. We will be speaking to you again, I'm sure, as we continue to battle this health crisis. It's a public health crisis here in Grenada, and I encourage you to stay safe, you and your family, and continue to contribute. Your contribution is noted, and we do appreciate it.
Having me on your program, and I hope that you stay safe.